you ask for a hot dog, you will get a hot dog. And if you don't ask for a hot dog, you won't get a hot dog. So a hot dog is a hot dog. I know that's tautological, but it's very important to acknowledge the uniqueness and the specificity of this particular sandwich-adjacent, taco-adjacent construction. Hello and welcome to episode 500 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, June 5th, 2025, in the evening, coming to you live from Gadsden, New York. It's me, RidiculousHat. From Nomergon, Ohio, we have Edelweiss.
Hello.
From Northern Massachusetts, we have Wickgood.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Magesa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. Thank you so much for being here. This week's episode is brought to you by nostalgia, but also the present. And also, our producers, Number Theory, Crash, B-Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottle Cap, Scruffy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Reagan, May, SJ5 Goku, NY Kiwi, and our patrons of the week, TR Highlands and Alan. You can go to patreon.com/coinconcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help to support the show in the process. Also, once every 500 episodes, you can get someone to come back and be annoying in the intro.
You dealt with all the new stuff that we added without missing a beat, too. That's impressive.
It's my job is just yapping in a different app these days. It's fine.
So in case you haven't figured it out by now, this is our 500th episode, and we couldn't have when we last recorded with RidiculousHat, we made it very clear that it was impediment. That's not a word. Imperative.
There you go.
It was imperative that he come back for the 500th episode for a special occasion. So we are blessed to have him back for one night only, a special appearance. So, anything gone on in past, I don't know, 2 years or so?
Dude, so many stones have been hearthed. It's just been a crazy amount of hearthed stones. What else? I got my Switch 2 today. That's pretty exciting. Some other stuff,
Well, before we really dive into Life and Ladder, Magesa wrote up a great intro because we actually got some listeners since you've been running the show. So some people might not know you, which is weird, but
I am surprised that you think I'm surprised that people were listening only for me. No. This is a great podcast. I've been honored to be a part of it, but also it's been really, really fun watching you all take it and run with it and keep it going. It's an institution in the space, and of course you will get listeners since I left. I bet you get some listeners because I left.
Let's not go that far.
Well, it is an honor to be on something that has been going for 500 episodes. And yes, if you have been listening to this podcast and we say hat and you have not known who we're talking about, here you go. So Ben RidiculousHat Goodman is the influencer manager for Hearthstone. He manages content creators and the creator program, tirelessly answers all manner of questions on social media, gathers a lot of community feedback for the team, and generally serves as a key link between Team 5 and the broader Hearthstone community. But prior to joining Blizzard 2 years ago, Hat was already an active and respected presence on Hearthstone social media, an owner, commissioner, and system administrator of Team Hearth Legends, and most importantly, a host of not one, not two, but 3 Hearthstone podcasts: The Angry Chicken, The Vicious Syndicate Data Reaper Report, and of course our very own Coin Concede. Beyond Hearthstone, Hat is a fan of roguelikes, puns, and sandwiches. When I showed this to my husband, he said everyone's a fan of sandwiches. I said, no, you don't understand.
He's not wrong, but he doesn't understand the scope.
It's a different scope. And we want to say today, Hat is not here as a representative of Blizzard. He is here as a former host of the show and our friend. And Hat, we are so happy to have you here to celebrate 500 episodes with us.
That was beautiful.
So,
thank you for the write-up. And yes, to emphasize this, Twitch chat, I know you're always great here, but I am off the clock, so no work questions will be answered.
So we'll be talking about Hades 2 for the next 6 hours.
Don't you tempt me. Don't you tempt me. You know that I will call that bluff instantaneously. You don't want that.
I am well aware. Yes.
well, I know that you are waiting for the full release to really dive in. You don't want to wear it out before then, right?
I had a vision of playing a little bit as the patches rolled out to feel the difference. And then I was like, this is too much to keep up with. And I already I already am involved with the game with the rapidly changing meta that I have to keep with incremental changes, and I don't need that in my roguelikes necessarily. And I have instead taken my Hades 2 approach and spaced out the playtime a little bit more, because every time I pick it up, I'm kind of amazed at how much stuff they've crammed in there, and that's better than trying to keep a regimented, close connection with it. And I'm also really excited to play it on the Switch too, because the original Hades, I was really into it on the Switch 1, and that won't happen until 1.0, which is going to come, like, I'm not going to say soon, but I think that they said when 1.0 comes out, it'll be right on Switch 2, and it'll be sometime next year. It's probably close enough that I'll get a few more early access runs in, but it'll be really nice to play it on my couch without, like, fiddling with the Steam Deck.
Okay, so let me get your official take now. Which do we get first? Hades 2 1.0 or Silksong?
It's Silksong, and I know it's stupid to say that. I am aware of how like optimistic, to the point of being naive, it is to say Silksong will be first, but Silksong is confirmed to be on display in September. It's confirmed to come out this year. I know they've confirmed it to come out this year multiple years ago, but we'll get Silksong before Winds of Winter, like, for sure. We'll get Silksong before Doors of Stone, for sure. I think we will get Silksong before GTA 6, and I think we will get it before Bloodborne Remake, which may or may not happen. I don't know. We'll get it before all these things that are never going to exist. I think Silksong is going to exist.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm hoping it's not actually September, because then I'm never getting you to play Trails in the Sky remake. So yeah.
I thought I managed expectations in the pre-show on that one already. Like, I don't think that never would be far from where I am now. As you warned me, and I was prepared.
So rather than all these games that are not yet out, what have you been playing?
Okay, so this is Life and Ladder. Again, I'm off the clock, but I like Hearthstone. I will just say the fact that Rogue has a bunch of cool decks is fun and great, and Dark Gifts are fun. And I know that every time I Shadow Step a Creature of Madness, Steve is shaking his fist, and I enjoy that feeling. So, just letting you all know, that's still happening. You can find me doing that on Ladder. But Expedition 33, man. It's so, like, Blueprints was my game of the year for about 2.5 weeks, and I thought the Blueprints was unassailable. It was everything that I live for and stand for and love, right? Roguelike puzzle game that I can play with my wife while she takes notes, like, perfect. And then this French RPG that I call it, I'm going to type this in the Twitch chat because it's hard to say out loud, but Sekiro, where it comes out where I can parry. It's like Sekiro, I call it a Kling Clang game. This is Le Kling Clong. Like, and so you just parry, but also really emotionally touching, also an unbelievable soundtrack. So that game picked me up, and I wasn't able to let it go until I hit the platinum. Really, really incredible experience. I'm considering New Game Plusing, even though I've already done all the content, just because I had so much fun with it.
Wow.
So yes, that's great. That was my life for a while. I talked about Ladder already. But
did I see you 100%ed it?
Oh, I platinumed it. Yeah, that happened.
Okay. Yeah.
But Edel, I see that you wrote down something that it's a bunch of words I don't understand, so I want you to explain them to me.
So, I took up game mastering for my tabletop RPG groups, and since we last were doing a show together, and I have moved on from Dungeons and Dragons to a system called Shadow of the Weird Wizard, which is awesome. But I've just been so far running like already published adventures. The great thing about the system is that it's designed that, like, after every quest, everyone gains a level. So as adults with lives, you can actually get through a campaign in 10 levels. But
that's the way to do it.
Yep, it's great. But I'm prepping for my first adventure for one of the groups where I can't do a published adventure, because one of the things he does in his world building, the author, is like, there's this city called Four Towers that people do expeditions down, like dungeon delving beneath it. There's no published adventures of doing that. So you just have to, like, make your own dungeon. if you're going to do it. So that's what I've been doing. I have a couple weeks before we're going to be playing again, and I've been working on that. And it's going to be a little bit of what we call a funhouse dungeon, where there's like, traps and riddles and puzzles and things. Not like a super intense one, but it should be fun. I'm having a good time designing that, and I'm both like nervous and excited because it's, again, the first one of these where I'm not just running something that's already published. Playing Arena, enjoying Arena. Somehow I am much worse at this Arena than the old one. I don't know how that is. Maybe I just don't know the meta well enough yet. But doing Underground Arena and actually getting to change around cards is cool. But I'm waiting for a sale on one of the games that Wicked is playing.
I mean, there's a bunch now, but I mean, I've been playing a lot of Arena also. I've basically only played Arena in Hearthstone this week. I haven't touched Standard since Arena came out, but I've been liking it a lot. I did get a 5-win run with Priest, and I got to play all the Priest greatest hits in like non-underground Arena, and I was back home like playing with like all of the Death Rattle undeads and bringing them back, and it was so nice. And palm reading. Oh, I miss palm reading so much. Palm reading. It was so good.
Yes.
Palm reading and renew and cannibalize. Oh my god, cannibalize.
You sicken me.
I know. It was
that
good.
sentence out of context.
if it makes you feel better, I did end up getting completely annihilated by a Burgle Rogue in one of those runs where I was doing fine, and I think this was, I don't know if this was my Zarimi run or if it was the I'm sure what oh no, this was a druid. It was a druid. I wasn't playing as the priest in that one. So I had Topior, which probably wasn't getting there anyway. But I was like basically beating them down until they managed to generate a Blightblood Berserker, which, if you don't remember, is the 7-mana 3/8 with Taunt, Lifesteal, Reborn, deal 3 Death Rattle, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. And that was
so you're playing against a rogue?
Yep.
Because that's a shaman card.
It sure is, but they were full on Burgle Rogue.
Oh, you got Recon, didn't you?
Oh yeah. I don't even know if it was Recon. They had like what the hell? I don't even Seraphine Fleet Runner with replace your minions.
The 5/5 that replaces.
Yeah.
I have not thought about her in a while. It sounds like you had
Nobody has. Nobody has. There were vendettas. There were hench clan burglars. Oh,
it sounds like you have a vendetta now.
They had the card. I had the mentality. Thistle T sets, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, they got me, but good. But I've been liking New Arena a lot, and that's basically all I've been playing in the game. And then I've successfully gotten the oldest into card games, but it took the Final Fantasy Magic set to get there because she's addicted to Final Fantasy 14. So she's coming with me to a pre-release on Saturday. In exchange, I've been playing through some of the Final Fantasy games. So I've been playing through 16 lately, and oh my god, I know I'm a year late, but god, that game is so good. Like, it is really good. Like, it's much more of an action RPG than I was expecting when I went in, but it is really good. Like, the story gets you from the beginning and just kind of doesn't let go. The action feels really good. The
fights are really cinematic, and then there's kind of a deck building element to your different like builds and abilities that all have a lot of synergy that I didn't expect.
Yeah, it's like that like Mega Man Battle Network type roguelike.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I forget what the name of I can't remember what the name of it is right now, but it's kind of like that where you're kind of like changing through your abilities on the fly.
One Step from Eden?
Yes, yeah, that one. I knew you would know the name of it. Yeah, so it's like that where you're like changing through the abilities on the fly and like rotating through them while the other ones are on cooldown, and like, oh, it's really good. I've just basically, the only problem is that I don't get a lot of time with the PlayStation right now because, the family's watching things on that television. So I've had to either play through remote play, which has not been going great, or just like whenever like my wife is like out doing something, I'm like, okay, kids, move over because I'm playing Final Fantasy till mom gets home. But yeah, that game's really good.
I can recommend. So I don't know what your Wi-Fi setup is. I do have a PlayStation Portal I picked up. Surprisingly good at playing remote play in your own house. Like surprisingly good, especially for JRPGs.
I think it's the Wi-Fi that's the issue more so than because like it's not like it's not bad, but they're also streaming something at the same time, and like I might have to actually like run Ethernet to the PlayStation and get them both on the same wired network, and that might work, but we'll see. Because my PC that I'm playing from is wired into the router, so if I get them both wired into the router, then I get around that. But anyway, this is not tech talk for nerds. But I mean, it is, but not that kind of tech talk. But what have you been playing, Magesa?
Well, so in standard, there's an aggro priest, so I haven't really even bothered to try too many other things. I feel a bit bad because I said on the previous episode, maybe 2 weeks ago, hey, if we get like an aggro King Crush Hunter, I will totally play that. So Sidisi sent me one, and I haven't played it yet. I'm sorry, Sidisi, if you're listening to this.
He's used to being disappointed by priest mains, so it's fine.
But there's an aggro priest, and sometimes you get to generate weird cards. Like I got my first mysterious Tocha off ever.
Nice.
I like didn't even see what the other option was. Like I don't remember what the situation was. Maybe it was lethal or something, but I just saw it probably wasn't, because to get to 42 they weren't that low. I was just like, oh, there's a Tocha. Can I get it to 42? Oh, yes, I can if I attack with this minion. We have to do it. It's required. I don't make the rules. So that was very fun. Just being able to play with cards that you wouldn't normally put in your deck is fun for Imbue, although it's disappointing when they've beaten you down, you've got all this mana, and it gives you like an overzealous healer or the gravity one that changes everybody's health and attack.
Gravity lapse.
Gravity lapse. So, that happens, but other times it totally saves you. But I also played some Control Priest in the arena. I did make the mistake of doing this in a coffee shop because I work at the school that I work at in the mornings, and then I usually go and do grad school stuff and tutoring, but they had a professional development late in the afternoon, and you don't want to head there in the afternoon for traffic. It is like, you just don't, just know. East anyway from where I am in the afternoon is bad. So I stayed there in the coffee shop and lost my first game due to a disconnect. Which I should have known. Like, I should have played a game in casual first to find out. But we still got there for 4 wins, and I had 2 22-minute priest games in a row. I was getting really worried that I was going to be late for the professional development and just have to leave the game early. But it was baby Magesa time, come back. I'm counting my cards. I'm not drawing too many. I've, of course, had the Imbue, which will briefly, we're not really doing news, but we will briefly mention there was a hot fix patch today, so won't be doing that going forward. But really remembering the one Control Priest coaching that I ever had with Wicked, which was back in 2021. I had just gotten COVID for the first time. I was sick out of my mind, but I wasn't going to not have my coaching with Wicked Good.
This is why she allowed me to coach her on Control Priest, because she was sick out of her mind and she didn't know any better. Yeah.
So Steve carried us in that situation, but I did remember some lessons that I was able to bring to bear. Unfortunately, I had to leave at 4 wins, and then when I came back to it the next morning, I immediately ran into an Imbue Shaman that just had craziness on turn 3. So I was like, all right, never mind. This is not the game for me. I'll have to do one more before I unlock the underground. But in life stuff, almost done with the school year. I have one student who we've been just kind of grinding through the math before pre-algebra for the whole year. And I was like, I feel bad. I want to do something really fun for the end of the school year. So we have a 3D printer. I have not had a chance to use it yet, but we're doing proportions and scale models and stuff like that. So when are you going to have a better opportunity to use the 3D printer? So I am excited to use that again. I used to work in a maker space, but what I really love is the laser cutter, and they don't have a laser cutter.
Laser cutters are the best. It's the best
laser
machine.
Cutters, it's the best machine. You can make a 3D thing just out of the laser cut stuff. It's so precise. You don't have to, but the settings are easier than the 3D printer, and it doesn't have all the print errors. It comes out exactly right every time once you get the settings right, and it doesn't take a million years. But 3D printers are still cool, and I'm excited to do this with her. And we do have to finish this in 1 week, and she can't. I also need time to print it, so we have to finish it in less than 1 week so that I can actually give it to her on the last day of school. And then, because that would be sad. I have had that happen where I'm trying to get prints out before students leave for the summer because the print isn't quite going right, and we don't want that situation. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah.
Well, we're gonna, as Mgesa alluded to, do just a quick housekeeping. No chitter chatter on any of this, but a few updates that y'all should know in terms of hotfix patch.
Yep.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Okay, so again, we are there. There were a bunch of cards that were revealed this week. We will talk about them next week. We don't have time this week. We will talk about all the cards and everything that was revealed, and we'll probably have a 6-hour show next week to talk about all that. But there was a hotfix that was primarily for arena adjustments that came out today, which is Thursday, June 5th. Adjusted some legendary buckets. There were some appearance rates that are going down. Particularly, they called out Prince Malchezaar, Ferocious Felbat, and Living Garden. They removed the ability to generate Firac Tortola and Emeritus, which I've had several Firacs generated on me, so I appreciate that change. They completely removed Zephyrus Treacherous Tormentor, which I believe is the minion that discovers a legendary with a dark gift. A few Demon Hunter cards and several Priest cards, Zarimi, Puppet Theater, Aviana, and basically all of the Priest imbues. So Imbue Priest was pretty overpowered compared to everything else. That makes a lot of sense.
They actually can't even get the neutral imbues now. The neutral imbues are there for everyone else, not for Priest.
As usual, Priest doesn't get what everybody else gets. I'm used to it. But yeah, so and they added a few new cards to make up for that. And some bugs that were fixed around UI sometimes being unresponsive, incorrect XP rewards for undergrounds, or being offered cards that had incompatible runes with what you were building in Death Knight. So if you log into Arena, just be aware that is going to be different. One correction from last episode: the death rattles that Umbra repeats can come from different minions as long as more than one have died. So they can have the same name, but it will repeat the same death rattle more than once if you have more than one of those death rattles that have died, say ball hogs, for instance. Or defense crystals if you're that kind of a demon hunter. And if you are watching this live or listening to the raw audio, please do tune into the Masters Tour this weekend, Friday to Sunday, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time each day. Our own Edelweiss will be casting it, along with a fantastic rest of the casters who are not as important as Edel. So,
yeah, it's just me and the UK crew. It's it's so strange.
Yes. And don't forget to choose your champion.
Yes.
Right now, if you're listening.
Yes, do that because you will get packs from the next expansion. If minimum 1, and then more if you pick wisely. So that is it. Again, we will have a lot to talk about in terms of the new cards next week.
Oh.
But yep.
I have one other correction that was my bad. I thought, because this would have been a cool thing, that Floppy Hydra getting repeated would shuffle Umbra into the deck. And I tried it, and that does not happen.
Okay.
So you can't use the Amalgam Death Rattle or Floppy Hydra to shuffle Umbra in. Repeating Death Rattles just repeats the actual cards thing, unlike Battle Cries, where, Shutterwalk makes copies of itself with Serenite. Don't know why that is, but it is.
There's
So what you're saying is that's
between. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
I
can't help it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that strategy was a flop.
Indeed.
I'm not going to beat that. Just keep going. Just go.
Okay. But we have lots to catch up with Hat, and that is going to be our Hat explanations for this week. So let's go and do that.
So, we are basically going to take this opportunity to reflect on the history of the show, at least insofar as all of us know. It did not start with Hat, but I think, Hat, you're like the longest running host. I feel like you had the longest tenure.
Second longest. We talked about this in the pre-show. Sir not appearing in this film has been in the most consecutive
yes,
episodes.
of course. Yep.
But in terms of speaking hosts, I believe I had the longest tenure, definitely longest consecutive tenure. But also, who's counting? I don't remember how long it was. I know it was a while, and it was fun, and it was great. And I finally stopped being so greedy and let other people take the spot, which has really gone well, in my humble opinion.
Well, before you joined the podcast, what can you tell us about just like your history as a gamer in general?
I remember fighting with my brothers over the controller for Blaster Master when I was like 4 years old. We had a Commodore 64 with a bunch of games that were written in Sharpie on large floppy disks. I don't know where they came from. My dad said he got them at a yard sale. I did not ask questions. I was very young.
That's where all Commodore 64 games came from. I think that they all came from the same place, and they were all just magically appeared in the houses that they lived in.
It's like it's not my place to retroactively investigate and interrogate childhood memories live here in the show. It's outside of scope. But yeah, I mean, I've been playing games as long as I've been able to play, and there have been games. It's just been a thing that I've done for a long, long time. Magic the Gathering was really, really big when I was at the age to be vulnerable to opening packs and feeling dopamine. Kids back in the day, there were no Pokemon yet. This was just the best you could do in terms of a feeling of excitement and surprise, and I want another one, was opening a pack of Magic cards. And it was so hard to find until Fallen Empires came out, and then that cool little bit, because it's a set called Fallen Empires. Anyways, but like ever since then, I wanted to do cards, so I did cards. I did cards for a long time. I did the Star Trek cards, did the Star Wars cards, I did the Versus System cards, I did all the cards that you could think of. But Magic was the game that stuck around for a while until I got a job working nights and weekends at a movie theater chain. And if you were a Magic the Gathering grinder, you're like, but wait, that's when PTQs are. Yes, I had to stop the Magic lifestyle and instead work nights and weekends. And then a funny little digital card game came out on my telephone, and I was like, you know, I can play on my telephone in lots of places at lots of times. That game was called Hearthstone, by the way.
Did it release on mobile?
Not originally.
Not originally.
Yeah. That was the same time I started, which was Black Rock Mountain was when the phone client came out.
Yeah. So like I played on the iPad beta because I had an iPad that I got from work event, but it was in beta, and like I was still pretty Magic pilled at the time. Still pretty like connected to the inertia there. But when Hearthstone came out on the phone, I remember this feeling of like, this could be the game. This could be the thing. Because the way to play Magic Online back then was a program called Magic Online, and it was I cannot envision a world in which that program becomes a mobile friendly platform. It's not even computer friendly. So Hearthstone was just a very different, very polished experience, and it pretty much instantly, you all know, you're listening to a Hearthstone podcast, it got me good. And then, you know, I kept playing it, and I started talking about it on social media. It was called Twitter back then, and it was a good website. If you think you can hear the pain in my voice, you don't even know. Anyway, so I tweeted about it, and then I was asked to guest on a podcast, and I was like, ooh, this is exciting. I'm going to buy a Blue Yeti, a high-end podcast microphone. Little did I know, Steve, it's fine. And I guessed on a podcast.
It keeps me humble.
Yes, that's the word that I would use to describe you, Steve. It's humble. And so I got a taste for it, and then I podcasted more, and then Cora was a host on this show, and she had to go be awesome and cast Hearthstone tournaments, like full time back then. And so I stepped in temporarily, and then I wouldn't let them kick me out. They were just like, you can stay, it's fine. And then the Vicious Syndicate decided to found a podcast, and I had been writing for them for a while. And then Angry Chicken was like, hey, we need another host because Josh is stepping out for a little bit. And then I did that. And then all of them kept me, and I had just found myself. It's like there's this thing that people with cats talk about, where if you have a cat, okay, they have a cat. If you have 2 cats, okay, they have a couple cats. Once you have one more, you're that guy with all those cats. And I was that guy with all those podcasts. It just kind of happened. And I podcasted so much that Team 5 finally was like, you got to stop. We're going to hire you. And then here we are. And then here we are.
What was the show like when you were a guest on it? Like, what was the vibe of it?
The first episode I remember, I think it was just Cinder and Cora. Appa was sick and Kenny was busy with something. And Cora kept having issues where like the furnace in the house she was living kept kicking on, and she had a Blue Yeti that was sitting on her desk, and so it was very, very like vibraty, and it was not the experience I quite expected to have, but it was fun talking to people, and so I was like, you know what, I like talking to people, just keep doing that, and it was so when I joined, it was Kenny, Cinder, Appa, and I was the fill-in person, and Kenny was the steadiest host you could ever ask for. Just really, really like steady as he goes. Cinder was dialed into the tournament scene. Appa was kind of like, if we were doing the It's Always Sunny thing, he was the wild card. Where just like a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, a lot of opinions. And then I guess I was like trying to be the guy that sounded smart. I think that was my role. I think that was the thing. Like I just yapped with increasingly more syllables and words until people were like, all right, that's a good point. Let's move on. But we settled into our roles pretty well. Cinder ended up moving on, so we got Bodicus, who is just like an iconic character that's hard to describe if you haven't met him. Both very level and very stubborn in his ways, in very entertaining ways, but good friend of mine, nice guy. Appa ended up moving on. I think that was when, Steve, was that when we got you?
Yeah, that was, I was coming in to fill his shoes because he was starting to go. I think the idea was that he was gonna like go part-time, and then he just like, we did that for like a couple weeks, and he's like, yeah, I think you're in good hands and I'm done.
Yeah, it wasn't like part-time is never realistic. It was a slow goodbye, and that's cool. Like it ended up working out better for him, for us. Like it was time to move on, which is something that happens in podcasts. And I found that Coin Concede is one of the few shows where you can really maintain perpetuity. Though I was lucky with this and Vicious Syndicate that they were able to continue with multiple hosts. But yeah, so that was when Steve came on. In between that time, we did have a really fun run with Bodicus where we had a bunch of different high-profile guests on. Those were really interesting shows. I think Edel was actually a couple of those guests. And then I think Edel was a couple guests after, when Bodicus was starting to wane in his connection to the show. He had some other stuff going on. And then Edel joined full-time. And that was obviously great. I mean, she's a professional Hearthstone caster now. You all know how good she is at talking about Hearthstone and other stuff.
I wasn't then.
Well, okay, they hadn't found you yet. That's not on you. That's on them. Okay, I stood by your abilities then. I stand by them now. And then I left, and Magesa is just like, it's a great upgrade. And so I think that encapsulates all the hosts that we went through here. But in terms of the vibe, it's really hard to capture that. I think the thing that I'm most proud of with all of Coin Concede is actually the Discord. I think that the community that was cultivated there over time has always had a really particular feel of nuance and being welcoming and making sure that there are places for all perspectives, and there are places to express yourself in any way that you need to at any given point. But it's one of the few places that is not only unequivocally welcoming, but is clear about seeing both sides of the coin. I should have intended that pun. I didn't, but in retrospect, I'm glad I made it. Both sides of the coin, concede. And I've always felt connected to that in a way that has really persisted. Like before I was permanent on the show, and during, and then even now after, I still feel really, really connected to that environment. And I think the community there is really, really special, and that you all have done a great job of cultivating that, keeping that going. And that has it's shifted, but it's never changed.
Yeah, I mean, that's what really drew me in to Coin Concede. I was just a person in the Discord community, and because I really felt that difference, and also did kind of what Hat was saying that he did when he came on the podcast, of just like kept saying more things and tried to be smart about it and consider it until they asked me to come guest on the show. I was like, what? They're asking me to come guest on the show, but then I had a really good time, and I've been having a really good time. So, yeah, I had started listening back. So I think it was Hat, Edelweiss, and Bodicus was just on his way out, and Wickagood was on his way in. And then I had just found Off Curve, and then Off Curve ceased to exist. I was I was like, I don't know whether to be sad or happy about this, because I'm getting Wickagood on my favorite show, but also I just found his show. But it was a good thing. It was a good thing for everyone.
I mean, you got to listen to me talking to a real mic instead of talking to like a lavalier that I was hanging from like the visor on my car. So that's an upgrade, if nothing else. So for those of you who don't know, before I was doing this show, I mean, I've done a number of podcasts before this, but I was doing a podcast called Off Curve that I literally would just clip a lavalier like mic to like the visor of my car and just info dump for about 30 minutes on my drive home from the train station. And that was the car. And somehow I managed to just monologue for that long about Hearthstone, which is probably one of the reasons that
somehow
somehow.
Yeah, life found a way. And we did hear about your ice cream journeys. Those were some of my favorite episodes, where you schlepping ice cream around. It was just a big part of my weekly routine.
Yeah. That was in COVID when I didn't have a job. Well, I mean, I had a job, but I didn't have an office to drive to. So I had to find excuses to drive someplace. So I would end up going to the supermarket during COVID and record while I was going to and from the supermarket to get ice cream. That was how I kept doing it, because I couldn't just sit in front of a mic at a desk and talk to myself for half an hour, because I felt like a crazy person. So I not that talking to myself in the car was necessarily that less, but it just felt like I was at least like having a conversation with somebody in the passenger seat who I wasn't looking at and who would fallen asleep from me talking at them, as opposed to, just sitting in front of my computer and talking to nobody. So
look, I have one time just talked to myself for like an hour to keep from falling asleep. Just talked out loud because I had been on no sleep for more hours than one is supposed to. Too many hours, 36 hours. And I was driving home from Philadelphia.
Oh my God.
I have also talked to myself out loud in the car because I'm trying to figure something out, or I'm trying to remember something that I'm going to have to talk about when I get there. It's like I'm trying to figure out what my lesson's going to be because I didn't plan this out well enough ahead of time. So I'm just like saying it out loud, and then I have to repeat it to myself to make sure that I remember out loud. It's not crazy unless you don't realize that you're talking to yourself, Like it can be very useful.
Whenever I have a long drive back from Canada, which I've done a couple times, I always spend a couple hours distracting myself by deriving the conversion formula from kilometers to miles, kilometers per hour to miles per hour. Just because, like, I always forget the specifics, but the process is always like interesting enough to keep me occupied for like a solid hour-ish, just to think about it while I'm driving. And it's just like it's a good way to pass the time.
Okay.
So I actually have a story.
I just try to figure out what's going into all dressed chips while I'm eating them on the way back. So
it's everything.
I know, but if you have to try to figure out all those flavors, it takes a while.
By the way, listeners, we have a lot of questions. Some of them Hat just decided to go down the line and start answering without them being asked. So that's part of how we got a little bit off the rails here.
That was exactly
Did we expect
off the
to start
rails?
on the? Did we even expect to start on the rails? I don't think we did.
I don't think we need to say that. That was exactly what I did when I first guested, because I had looked at all your questions ahead of time and thought about it. So I just
how
kind of
dare I answer the questions that you sent me? Like, what's the problem? What's the problem?
Yeah, they don't know that it was asked. But anyway, next one is you got into a little bit of this in terms of the different hosts, but how would you say that sort of the show has changed since you've moved on from it?
So I think it's difficult for me to answer this in a way that isn't uniquely personal, because it's... So Steve, have you started to teach any of your kids how to drive yet?
Yes, unfortunately.
how weird is it being in the passenger seat?
It's terrifying, actually.
You feel like
Yeah.
you're in the wrong place and that your perspective is completely shifted. So I was in the I was in the driver's seat, metaphorically speaking. I was in the box for so long that getting out, it made it like it was just kind of a bit of a out of body experience in a way. And like, this is not any judgment of the show. This is me swimming for so long I didn't realize I was in the water. And so that changed perspective, combined with also, I mean, of course, there's a change in perspective with Hearthstone because it became my job. It became just a really significant shift for me personally that made me, of course, appreciate and understand the show a little bit differently, but look at it really differently. So I don't know if I could really put a stamp on before or after. All I can say is that it's still a great show. I enjoy it very much. It's nice to hear about things from a different perspective where I don't have to think about it. It's nice not realizing, oh crap, it's 7:15. I should probably write show notes. It's nice looking at the show notes and understanding that someone else still had that feeling. Sometimes. I'm sure y'all are very organized, but like there's some things in past show notes that are like, oh, that's new, and other things like, I know what happened here. But it's both the same and very different. I feel the same when I go back and visit my hometown, Massachusetts. Some things I remember, some things feel different for the better, and some things make me realize that I've grown and changed a little bit. So I feel pretty similar about the show. So basically, I think you all are basically like Legal Seafoods, which is a compliment. Absolutely. Now I want shout out.
Not like the test kitchen though.
Is there wait?
Test kitchen isn't
Where
Legal
is-
Seafood Test Kitchen supposed to be the fancy one?
Well, I haven't been there. Now I didn't know they had that. Where is that? How do I do that?
It's in Boston. I've never been there. I've just heard stories. I will find out for you. I will get
Please
you
information keep me updated.
Next time you come up.
I did when I was in Boston for PAX East for like one day. We went to where is this place? Tonberry told me about it. Where I had this absolutely ridiculous lobster roll. James Hook. I went to James Hook, and it was a very large lobster roll served with butter, like just melted butter that you pour on it. My wife had never had a Boston lobster roll, and I hadn't had one in a long time. And we had it, and it was very expensive. And afterwards, we said that was worth it, and it was really, really great.
So now you need to go to Red's Eats in Maine next time you go up.
I do.
Towards
How
Canada.
did we talk about? Why are we talking about sandwiches? What happened? How did we get here?
Because we've been recording with you for like 45 minutes, so we inevitably got to sandwiches.
I
a
promised.
manager. You did tell your husband this. I want you to tell your husband what happened. Tell him what you saw. As a manager I used to work with before the Blizzard job back at the movie theater, he said there was something called Benjamin's Law. All conversations not about food will eventually become about food.
Yes, I actually, and I also, we've moved on from this, but I have to circle back because I actually have a story about converting kilometers per hour to miles per hour, which is I was doing neuropsych testing when I was in high school, and to see if I had ADHD, which, spoiler, I super have ADHD. But one of the things that they do is they give you like a general knowledge test if you're under 18. And one of the questions was, what's the speed of light? So I gave it in meters per second. And the examiner said, no, I need it in miles per hour. And I was like, why would anyone do anything with the speed of light in miles per hour? This is not how they taught it to me in physics class. It's in meters per second. And she was like, well, that's what's written down in this test. And I got madder about it than I should have, because that's part of what they're measuring, you know? Like it's revealing things about me that I need to get a perfect score on the test, even if that's not the point. So I was like, all right, do you have a piece of paper and a pencil? I will work it out from the conversions. So she finally said, all right, I'll give you the point, and wrote a note in the margin.
I feel like everybody got what they needed out of that interaction.
You know, I worked with her for a long time. She was really good at not just taking the statistical test results, but really interpreting everything from the testing situation. They actually talk to you about that when you do like psychology classes. You really, on assessment, you really want to look at the full situation and behavioral observations. But I also now have empathy for the person who's being assessed, watching you write notes. Like, you can't be too obvious about how you're writing the note, because then they're like, uh-oh, they wrote a note about that.
They will remember this.
She did. I'm sure she still remembers. Yeah. So we can go back to our regularly scheduled programming, but I actually had a story about that, so I had to share it.
Yeah, of course.
I'm glad you shared it. It was a good story.
So what type of episode was your favorite to record?
Okay, I was looking at this. What do you mean by type of episode?
Oh, like, you know how there's ones where a bulk of it is, all news because there's just been a ton of news. There's ones where it's like mostly explanations. There's ones where we have no idea what to talk about, and so it's like an evergreen topic, or
Card reviews.
Card reviews, interview episodes.
So the way that card reviews ended up landing, because there was a period where the rage in the podcasting scene was to do a card by card. So every single episode,
I feel attacked.
So like this was back in like when Valence Chosen would do it, and Walk to Work would do it, and Off Curve would do it, and Coin Concede would do it, and the Angry Chicken would do it, and every single podcast was doing the same content.
Well met.
Well met. Yeah, there like so many of these podcasts were doing all of these the same content. Every episode went an extra hour and a half for all of these shows, and it was the same cards. And so finally, I don't know where the push came from, but I know that I personally, after like the third time we tried to make a new rating rubric, because yeah, I can claim responsibility for that more than once. Instead, it's just like, no, we're going to do superlatives. We're going to pick a few cards, and we're going to take all of the per card discussion and yeet it out of the episode, because there is enough of that on the internet, and our show already tends to run long due to at least somebody. And it's just like the superlative approach, I think, has landed really well. And more importantly, it is very copy pastable. So the setup of the explanations is super fast. It's consistently good content. You get to talk about how wrong you were the previous time, of which I have been more than once, not about Dark Pharaoh Takan, but about a bunch of other cards. Dark Pharaoh Takan was butt. It was bad.
But
card.
at least you were right about Call to Arms, so that was the important.
Did I say that? Didn't I say that card was insane?
You did. It was bot that I believe said it was trash, and then
then Jerry Thompson told him that his collected company, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember. I can't imagine forgetting that. But yeah, so it's those episodes were, I think, consistent structure, and also I knew would always be good conversation. But the thing about Dexplanations, and I know that the three of you know this, the less time you put into writing it, the better the segment is. And I don't know why, but some of the best episodes we've always had have been the 5-minute, oh crap, we forgot to pick a topic, things that we wrote in right before the show. And I think it's because when you end up with something simple that you need to expand upon, you end up hitting on a lot of really important things. Like you Occam's razor the way through something like Mulligans or whatever, something that's evergreen and important, that you have to talk about something simple in detailed terms. So you end up speaking to a lot of the knowledge that you didn't realize that you had internalized. So it's really, really helpful for the listeners. And we consistently got positive feedback about that. But like, wow, this is a really great explanation. You must work really hard. And it's like, I typed it up during the news section. But that was consistently a thing that it came up over and over again. Like sometimes there are those really great deck guides where when one of us had a lot of success in a deck, it was easy to jump into that and like interview that person and talk through it. I really enjoyed those episodes. But I think the ones that consistently surprised me, consistently like not only performed but landed with the audience and felt like worth going back to, were the ones where it was a simple topic that existed out of need, not out of want, and somehow that made it a bit more poignant and relevant. If that answers your question.
Yeah, of course.
I think I have gone through a bit of a journey on show notes. So I am more thorough about show notes here on some episodes. Some episodes I put nothing. Or Wicked has already put in stuff, and that's fine. And for card review stuff, we just put the cards. I went through a brief phase when I was new to the show where I like would put in the pictures of the cards, and then it was like, no, that is insane. Why am I doing that? So I stopped doing that. But for the Dexplanations, I was taking the job of, okay, I can sort of shepherd the dexplanations very seriously. So I remember we had Smarms on, and we were also talking about Nature Shaman. And Smarms, if you're listening, I apologize for putting you through this. Because Nature Shaman was not an easy deck to play. This was, the very early OTK Nature Shaman. And so I had the day off of the podcast and the day before, I can't remember why. So I just went in like a fugue state for 36 hours, learning Nature Shaman and writing like the most detailed notes I have ever written, much more than I've ever done for a particular class that I'm giving. And it was very intense. And I hope Smarts did not come out of that.
I had published, when I used to do like published written deck guides on offcurve.com, I had ones that were shorter than the notes for that episode, if I remember correctly.
So they have gotten shorter because it's about trusting that I'm just putting the notes that I need to remember what I thought about the deck, or maybe, oh, I had a game where this particular thing happened, and that's like a good tip to go because you'll miss that you need to not attack with the weapon and hand buff paladin first if you're about to attack with the South Sea deckhand, by the way, like little things like that. But yeah, sometimes things where we're just answering questions, or I don't understand this deck we're talking about, but Edelweiss has been playing Rogue, so we're going to ask her because I was trying to play it and completely tanked my rank doing it.
Yeah, somehow I've become the rogue player on the show, Hat. I didn't think that was going to happen, but...
Well, you got 2 priest mains, so
Process of elimination seems fairly clear here, and also, like, I know the priest players don't necessarily want to hear this. It's not that, like, it's really not that far off, priest players and rogue players. Like, it's not, especially not with the direction that both classes have taken over the past couple of years, because some of those priest decks, they would really love Cold Blood, and some of those rogue decks would really love Amanthul or
Thought Steal, probably.
Or Thoughts. Yeah, I mean, of course they would love Thought Steal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and I do remember some of the other things that I remember that really stand out to me. There's when you have enough matchup knowledge to speak to like a turn where someone can listen to it one sentence and be better at that matchup. I always loved that experience. I remember one very particular example of Dragon Hunter versus Galakron Rogue. I remember that one of the best pieces of advice that I gave people is that if you coin Shield of Galakron, you're going to get Rod Nested, and you're going to lose. Because Shield of Galakron was a 5-mana 4/5 taunt. Rod Nest was 5-mana 6/5 dragon. It was huge, Hunter Dragon. If you're holding a dragon, you deadly shot. And I remember every time that I coined the Shield, I got blown out. They played a 6/5, and my entire turn investment was gone. So instead I said, hold Evil Miscreant for that turn. Play Miscreant instead. You go wide. They Rot Nest. It sucks. You shield next turn. You win. That kind of, like, having that kind of see the Matrix code experience and then being able to share it with listeners, that was rare. Because the reference that I'm making is an undisclosed age that happened. It predates COVID. But that kind of moment was also really fun to be able to capture. But it doesn't happen too often. Edel, I bet you do this all the time because you have to say this kind of thing this weekend repeatedly for 3 days. So I bet that you're more familiar with it now. But I do remember that experience being kind of a positive one.
I mean, what's funny is I think all of my analysis and stuff comes from playing against the decks, because I very frequently am playing non-meta decks. Sometimes I do, but I don't do as much as the other casters of playing all the meta stuff because it doesn't interest me. And so I just reverse engineer everything from playing against all these different decks and knowing, like, from playing against good players, what you're supposed to do. And I know when they've done things well and when they've done things poorly, because I've played against the good and the bad Cycle Rogue players and all that kind of stuff. Cycle Rogue actually is one of the few do a lot of things in a turn decks that I actually can play.
It's you play the 1-mana gadget, and then you play the bird, and then you keep doing that until you have 8/8s. And it's fun.
And then you Incendious for Pyroblast.
It's damage seems good. It wins games frequently.
Yep.
yeah, when I first saw that, I was like, oh, this is how we're doing it. I try to recreate with the explanation, and I think that the notes, I feel a balance of, unless I've really played a lot of the deck myself, and so therefore I've already kind of done all that thinking, the notes help me crystallize as long as I keep them in bounds. But when you've played enough of a deck to have that moment of recognizing what you want your early curve to be, I'm always playing aggro decks, so it's like, what do I want my early curve to be, or what is the swing turn that I'm going for? Doing coachings is actually really helpful for then coming to explanations, because you're talking through specific scenarios with someone. And we go to the rope so often. I had a coaching the other day, and I felt a little bit bad because we kept going to the rope, and he was like, I just need to play the cards. I'm like, sorry, just play this, or just whichever one. Yes, that one, you're over. Just play it, because we would have been talking through this or that for the whole turn. Whereas when I'm playing by myself, I'm actually, despite what I say on the show, I'm actually a pretty fast player on my own, because I have my plan. I was thinking about it last turn. As long as they didn't completely surprise me, or my top. I'm even thinking, what top deck do I want? So then if I get it, then I'm good. But that moment when you see, how do I explain something about this deck that's specific but also emblematic of how the deck works in general, can't do that all the time, but those are the best moments, I think.
So, all right, we've talked a lot about different types of episodes. Is there an episode or episodes that stands out to you in your memory in terms of like funniest, most interesting, most difficult to record?
Jared Tendler. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's the correct answer. Yeah.
The guy wrote books, and then he came and talked to us for free because we knew a guy. Shout out to the guy we knew. I'm not sure if we're supposed to name him, but shout out to that guy. But yeah, Jared Tendler, just like the volume of knowledge that he dropped in 30 minutes is crazy. It's still, I go back to that episode to this day. The Women in Gaming episode, obviously fantastic. I moderated that episode, and one of my favorite things to hear afterwards was that people forgot I was there, which is good because that's how it should have worked. And there were, like, I can think of a bunch of hosts and guests that I really enjoyed recording with. I don't know if I can remember the episode, but I can remember the experience of having a good time with those folks. The guest episodes with you when Boddick was on the show, Edel and Steve was already on here, were really fun. Four Tops. When we did episode 300, we had Kenny come back for the news, and then Cinder come back for the tournaments, then Cora come back for the explanations. We recorded in 3 segments, stitched them together. So that was really fun. And there were just so many different like crossover episodes and different people we had on. Like, I think we've had all the hosts of Valence chosen on at this point. I think we had crossover from Well Met at least once. Trying to remember all the different shows, but back then it was kind of the podcast cinematic universe. And it was really fun to do all of those different like hopping back and forth episodes and being a part of it, each person's experience. Yeah, there were a bunch of good ones. I am trying to think of any others, but I think it's always about the people, right? Like, it's always about, maybe I'm speaking to my job a little bit because I'm talking about all the people that influenced me, all the individuals that influenced me. But there were a lot of really great individuals that we got to work with, both host the show and also people that were here for one episode where I don't know if I remember what I said. That's actually a trick of podcasting. You never remember what you said in an episode. Someone will tell you, like, in chat the next day, wow, that was really smart what you said. And you were like, thanks. What was it? But I remember the feeling of camaraderie with those folks almost consistently, like, reliably. And it was really, really good.
I mean, one of the things that still to this day surprises me, because I always listen to the raw audio on the weekend in the car, like, and I'll go back and listen to it. And like, I know I was there. And, like, and it's like, oh, that guy's pretty smart. He said some smart things. And it's like, even like, it's funny because there's inevitably, you know, no matter how good you are at this, like, there's always going to be some episodes where you just feel like, oh, I sounded like an idiot on that episode. Like, it just happens, right? Like, you're always your worst critic. And there's always times when you're just like, oh, I really just like messed that one up. And you go back and listen to it. It's like, oh no, that was actually pretty good. Like, I've never really gone back and listened to that, like, one that I thought was bad. or not even necessarily bad, but just like maybe not my best work or whatever. I'm like, oh no, that was actually pretty good. You know, it's like it's like listening to somebody else doing the podcast when I listen to it, because it's like, I don't, like you said, I don't remember anything that I said. And which it makes it very hard when I'm trying to like come up with show descriptions and titles. And sometimes like, oh God, what did we talk about? I've even listened to it back in the car. It's like, oh, I need to come up with a title for this one. I don't know what I'm going to come up with.
Key innovation, perhaps one of the best innovations that I came up with, is actually on the Angry Chicken. When someone says something you like, write it down as the show title right then at that moment, and it's way easier. Because otherwise, titling a show is shockingly difficult. Especially
there are
like
a couple times that I've done that. Yeah,
write it down while you're recording.
Yeah.
Huge time save. Really big deal.
Wicked's very good at the show titles and the show descriptions.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that it is challenging, but they have always been on point.
Usually the ones that come out later in the evening are the ones where I'm still struggling with a title. That's usually the reason.
I knew it. I've stared at the post box for like half an hour, where the title is the only empty box. But like, yeah, I remember that feeling very clearly.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned this in the chat, but I think it may also be how I found this show, which is, you said podcast cinematic universe for Hearthstone, the Calm Before the Storm episode where it was just a bunch of different podcasts recording with all the hosts together. That was before BlizzCon starts at like the hotel or something.
Yeah, like the Marriott or something that was next to it. They would have like a little mini con like the day before. And yeah, I was able to be on that panel once. I guess that was 2019 that I was on that panel as for Off Curve at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, they would just like set up they had a couple of ballrooms in one of in the Marriott, and they would just have like panels rotating through. They had one room that had like an artist alley. You could get like people to sign things and whatnot. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, Deck Tech was on that panel with me, and we desperately wanted to get him to host a podcast at some point, and he never did. He just went to work for Blizzard instead. So
I think I listened to maybe Just Well Met, and then from that picked up Velen's Chosen and Coin Concede.
Yeah, I started with Velen's Chosen, and then Cora was guesting on an episode of Velen's Chosen. This was very early on. This was probably 2015, and that was how I ended up coming over to Coin Concede originally. Was because Cora was really insightful, as she always is.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, I want to hear more of her. And then I ended up, listening to Coin. That was back in the Cora, Cinder, Andres days.
Oh, that's way back. Yeah.
It's before I remember.
And Kenny was still there. Yeah. So it was Cora, Cora, Cinder, Kenny, and Andres back then. That was very early. Yeah.
Yeah, it was right after Kevin Cookies went off.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have basically played since Eaglehorn Bow got charges on enemy secrets.
Ooh, boy. Wow. I think that was open beta era. Yeah. Because I don't know if that made it to 1.0, but I think that was like the late open beta.
That sounds like an 8-mana mind control type of thing, yeah. Like,
It's funny. I don't remember some of the other things that were from that time. So maybe I'm just getting my wires crossed, but I do feel like I had that experience.
I think sometimes you hear about these. Like I heard so much about Day One Demon Hunter.
At any rate, if not then like right at launch, because it got popular in the Theta Chi house, and people were like, hey, you can just play it on a computer, you don't need to get other people. But I did not really listen to podcasts until I was in Philadelphia many years later. So there's kind of this gap between like I was playing a bunch of Hearthstone but not really tuned into meta or community or anything, and then got into the podcasts later. But yeah, I feel like so we all have a lot of stories what is a story that maybe we don't know about Coin Concede, Hat?
I'm trying to think if there's anything in my entire life that I've ever kept to myself.
I mean, there have to be, because there haven't been any leaks coming out of the creator Discord, so there must be some things that you're keeping secret.
We're not talking about work, Stephen. I'm trying to think of the untold stories of Coin Concede. I actually don't know how much of it was really like salacious and behind the scenes, outside of the aforementioned how many times we made the explanations during the show. There was a time when, I think that people probably knew this, but I'll just say it. There was a time when I had to learn how to edit audio because the show didn't have anyone that was available to do it at the time. And so I picked up and I learned how to edit audio. Now, I had a really, really basic tutorial, but that first week was awful. It was terrible. It was very bad. I didn't know what I was doing. I was using Audacity with a bunch of WAV files, and I tried to sync them up, and I tried my best, and it was not something that was realistic to learn that quickly. And Kresh, a listener, reached out and gave me some guidance on filtering and audio stuff, and really helped just walk me through that out of the goodness of his own heart. He's one of our producers. And not Rob from Valence Shows, and sat me down with the Audition and just like, hey, this is the way you want to go about it. And really took the time and helped me out with that when the show needed it and we didn't have the in-house knowledge. They helped us get back on our feet pretty quickly. And that was, I think, a really good expression of what Hearthstone community is about. And, it's how the show had a brief nadir in audio quality and then picked it back up to the point where I'm still pretty happy with it, even though now you got this newfangled box. It does it all for you. What is this?
Well, it does it all for us, except that Idle refuses to use most of it, so it's still being done the same old way.
Because so helpfully, Hat left a bunch of videos, and also I started editing before Hat left the show, right? There was a good long span where I was like, hey, I've got a lot more time on my hands than you. Maybe I should do the editing. And you walked me through it, right? Where I think first I just sort of watched you edit, right? Where we were just on a call, you shared your screen, I watched you do it. Then you had me do it while you watched. So it was a nice transition that we did not have to do on top of taking over all of the everything that you did for the show once you left.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that you all didn't have to learn audio, the crash course, the same way. I think we did that in advance, and that was a smart idea.
Yeah.
Running the Twitch stream, on the other hand, that was a little more of an adventure.
It's complicated, isn't it? Like
it is.
There's a lot and there are buttons and dials and so many different things you have to watch. I kept buying monitors until I think I figured it out. But there was like this, it almost became ritualized in setting it up, but it was always just like a surprising amount of detail coordination. Would always forget to change the title beforehand. So the VOD always had the wrong title every single time. Like I never once remembered. And yeah, just like keeping track of all that stuff at the same time is pretty demanding.
And like the fact that like the browser window like randomly resizes itself for no good reason every time that I go into the OBS thing, and then I have to go and fix it, and sometimes I figure that out before the stream, and sometimes I don't, and sometimes it's like a postage stamp that's on the stream, like, oh, sorry, that's it's we're gonna try something a little different starting with next episode that might make it a little bit easier to run, but it's surprisingly difficult to make that happen. And like just so many things that you need to be thinking about. Like I remember from the UHL days, if we're going to do another throwback of like the podcasting cinematic universe of like, which was like a podcaster Hearthstone league. And I never played in it, but I casted it a bunch. And there were times that I would cast it and run the stream. And don't do that.
Don't do that.
I
No.
don't know how I was able to talk and work everything on the stream at the same time. I know I did it poorly because it was there's even more that has to happen with like, I have nothing but respect for the people who do production for the like the Masters Tour and stuff like that. And I know they have much more sophisticated things than the two cans and piece of string that I was using at the time. But there's so many little moving pieces that you have to update and change and make it all look smooth all at the same time. And that stuff is hard to do.
So Raven generally runs the broadcast for the theory casting, right? Where the main channel, we cover watching different people who are in the theory crafting event. And one time his internet died in the middle, and Sottle was out for a walk or lunch or something. So I just sort of YOLO'd into that role of hey guys, there's not going to be any transition graphics, but I guess I'm like doing the production for the theory casting broadcast now. And yeah, we had it set up where you're still casting the one who's doing that. So it is tough.
But they knew you were going to be able to handle it because the first time that you were ever casting, you were casting with TJ and then his audio cut out and you had to monologue for like 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I
Things
do
never
remember
quite
that.
I was driving up to Maine to drop the kids off at camp, and I had it like on in the audio in the background. I was driving in, so I couldn't see what was going on, and I just like, oh, Edel's really taking over the conversation, like, because I didn't know that he had dropped out, and then finally he's like, like 10 minutes later, because like, oh, my audio's back, like, oh, that was freaking amazing, actually.
Yeah, having only done a podcast with other people and, done co-op streams and things mostly with other people, I have so much respect for doing it by yourself because it's a completely different skill. And I think all of this also speaks to the importance of, it's just a podcast, so it sounds weird to say institutional knowledge, but that kind of is what it is, of having the in-house know-how and then passing that down person to person and everyone taking in, their outside skills or figuring out what they're going to learn. I took my teaching lesson planning into building show notes, which I think is mostly a good thing once I got it moderated. I think one of my favorite episodes as a listener was the Jared Tendler episode. And as a host, both the Pocket Train interview was really fun. I was pretty new then. I was pretty nervous about it. But there was a lot of interesting things that he said, like how, for him, he just played so many games that it wasn't about stopping and thinking through every turn. It was about getting that muscle memory and those, rules of thumb that then in the relatively recent episode, when I got to bring my sort of cognitive psychology education into the show, that was really fun. That was one of the times when the show notes had so much work into it that it came out the other side of, now I don't even need to look at them because I know them. It's like when you make your cheat sheet for the final of a test and then you don't need to look at it because you made your cheat sheet, so you're good. And I was able to just have that conversation with the two of you. I even showed that to a psychology professor who I had for my graduate school class. We were talking about working memory and I was like, blah, 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 working memory. Here's my answer to your question. By the way, I did a whole podcast about this. Most of it will make absolutely no sense to you, but here's the part that will.
This sounds on brand for this show. And yeah, it's the act of verbalizing it and writing it down is enough to lock it in.
So we also have, the three of us kind of did this in a listener Q&A episode. Speaking of episodes where you're like, what do we even have to talk about? There's no news. We can't do a deck because it's about to change. So
the vibes in that episode were immaculate, by the way. Immaculate vibes. Super chill.
So we have some questions up, although if anyone wants to chime in with these, absolutely do. Favorite past or present? First one, I know we know the answers to this, but I have to ask it anyway. Favorite class? Can all say it together?
This is the wood-carved preparation that I have on my desk at all times.
Oh my goodness.
Because I was prepared for this question. Because Rogue.
So you did, after all, you did keep prep.
That was correct the whole time. I don't care what Bodica says. Keeping prep is correct. It's an innervate. Why wouldn't you keep an innervate? Kids back then, innervate gave you 2 mana. Anyways, so
Back in our day, our cards got 2 rods to the hogshead, and that's the way we liked it.
Yeah,
Coin,
of course.
innervate, Chillwind Yeti. Turn 1.
Yes. So Rogue, but also Demon Hunter is my favorite new class because it does like the Rogue things. It's less subtle, but it draws more cards and deals more damage. So like I'm into that. I can make that trade. I don't need to be clever. I just need to draw cards and then you're dead now. But Rogue is definitely first love. And it still hits. One of my favorite decks ever. I don't think it's my actual favorite, but it's close. Baron's Rogue was the most fun thing about Baron's by a lot. And it just was like this perfect field contacty list of stuff that you just did. And you could do all sorts of crazy value plays, and you had combo kills, but also just play your minions on curve and hit them in the face. Like, that was generally more correct, but it was all correct, and then sometimes you drew a bunch of cards, and then you did that, and sometimes you did the Tenwu thing, where, like, they took 18, and you had to have a game plan against a Lucia, because that card stole my Wicked Stabs on turn 10. But anyway, so when I played the modern Creature Madness Dark Gift Rogue again, I was like, oh, it was like Ratatouille. The scene where it goes back to the childhood, it's just like, oh, it's exactly, it has 1 drops, it has 9 drops, it does things with all that mana every turn, and in the middle of that game somewhere, you're going to play about 3 turns worth of cards in half a turn. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Baron's Priest was actually the best part of that meta, but that's okay.
There are children listening to this show.
They need to learn. It's fine.
That's how I felt about Naga Priest. You could just play the minions on curve. You could hang back and do the big Radiant Elemental turn. You could go sort of halfway in the middle where you spike partway through and then keep on the pressure. You had to learn which one to do. Or the Fire in Rage deck had like 3 different game plans and you had to pick which one, and that one was great.
2 really fun, underplayed, huge minion aggro decks that I kept yelling about in the Vicious Syndicate podcast for people to just try it, please, and they refused. But yeah, both really, really great examples of like, I feel like non-paladin decks that buff minions are so underappreciated. But yeah, the Enraged Warrior deck, Naga Priest, there are a bunch of variations of Undead Priest that had less buffing, but more of the damage stuff. All those were also like really, really fun. And I have over 1K wins with every class except DK because I'm slow on DK, but like, I got my 500 on it at least. So like I've enjoyed every Hearthstone class there is, especially Minion Priest. I think my last 1K besides the new classes was either Paladin or Priest, but like they've all had their moments and had their really fun strategies. I think there hasn't been a class that's had a deck that I haven't enjoyed.
Mage will always be my first love for Hearthstone.
Good choice. It's my sweet wormy boy. Ungoro Burn Mage, still one of my favorites ever, if not my favorite ever. It's way up there.
Will we get it again?
I'm off the clock.
And we're not talking about new card reveals. Well, we don't really know the mage stuff yet. We'll next week, listener.
It was a rhetorical
Tomorrow.
question. Rhetorical
Yes.
question. But
Yes.
yeah, what about legendaries?
Oh boy. Well, okay, legendary. I'm trying to remember, like, 4 mana Basileff was pretty gross. Sathina was pretty gross. I mean, the OG Edwin Van Cleef, maybe, but like that's a mean card. That's not a nice card. But me and Edwin go way back. There's in terms of like meme-ish legendaries that I really love, Nexus Champion Sarad was before his time in terms of the just get some value and do some stuff with it. And I always really enjoyed playing that game. That was really fun. Gosh, I should have prepared better for this one because I feel like there are so many. Medivh was really, really fun.
Original Medivh with that equipped the staff or whatever.
Yeah, equip the staff and then you would summon minions whenever you played. Like you coined the Pyroblast and then you got a 10.
Just Disguised Toast's meme lock featured that card.
That was the deck I was playing against Bodicus in that one Coin Concede listener league that he and I both played in. That he won, but I beat him in the regular season, and that I lorded that over him forever. Because
that sounds like both of you. Yeah. But yeah, I gotta go back and look at this because I'm sure that there are a bunch of cards that I'm forgetting that I'm mortified that I'm forgetting. But yeah, Hearthstone's a fun game. Like there are a lot of cards that I really enjoy. But all of my maybe this speaks to my spikiness. When people ask me my favorite cards, it's usually 1-mana minions that I think of, and those are usually not legendary.
Well, that is our next question. Non-legendary cards, and why is it Vicious Slither
Okay.
Sphere?
Love that card.
It was
No,
Mana Worm, wasn't it?
Mana Worm?
It is Prize Plunderer, who
Oh yeah. Oh god. Yeah.
incredible.
Yep.
Like I remember sleeping on that card for so long, and then 4 weeks after Dark Moon Fair came out, I played that card all day long on a Saturday in both Standard and Wild, and I kept killing things that had 8 health, and I was like, why was I not doing this sooner? And then Field Contact Noctobot came out, and you would do that for 0 mana. You would just murder the whole board and draw a bunch of cards, and I was like, that's my man right there. But also shout out to Risky Skipper, the Risky Skipper math. Edel, I know you like that card.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
you
Risky
like that
Skipper's
card.
great.
Skipper's way up there.
I did not appreciate Prize Plunderer at the time because I was not the rogue player on the show, but
Yeah.
that card's insane.
Really, really great. And yeah, I mean, there have been a bunch of other cards that I resonate with, but Prize Plunder is the one where I don't know if that should have existed the way it did, but man, I'm glad it did. And for the old school card, the original answer that I always gave here was 1 mana Cold Blood, which definitely should not exist anymore. That card is a mean thing to do to a person, but I liked doing that. I remember turn 1 Firefly, turn 2 Flame Elemental Cold Blood, getcha. And that was back in the day when Vile Spine Slayer was premium removal. Love that card too. And so attacking for 5 on turn 2 would just end games. Rush didn't exist yet, and removal was worse, and you would just pyroblast people. You would just live for 2 turns.
And then you prep Vanish if that wasn't enough damage.
Prep Eviscerate. I don't need to. I want them to vanish. The minions can stay. My opponent needs to go.
I remember Argent Squire was run just because it was a 1/1 Divine Shield that you would Cold Blood.
So I remember before Standard existed, Upgrade to Golden didn't exist yet, but I golden 6 cards because they were in all of my decks. Argent Squire, Abusive Sergeant, and Leper No. I made golden copies of all of those commons, and that meant that all of my decks had goldens that I played every single game on turn 1.
Man, Leper Gnome. That is a throwback.
That card was so much damage. You would play that on turn 1, and they're like, all right, I guess I started 24. That's just how it went.
Guess I die.
That's what I wanted. I was into that.
When I first started playing aggro, I was in a coaching with you, Hat, and I was asking, I've tried playing a bit of aggro. I just always run out of steam. How does this win? And you said something along the lines of okay, so have you ever been in a game where you're almost about to stabilize, but you can't quite because you just took a little too much damage in the early game and now you're dead? Do that. That's what you're doing.
You run out of stuff when your damage didn't go in the face. If you spent your damage elsewhere, then it's like that drill tweet where it's 3,000 on hats, help me find my family. So when you spend 3,000 damage on minion trading, then of course they're not going to run out of life. You put the minions where the life is, and then the life goes away. That's where you gotta do that. So it's all about that's a lesson that was hard for me to learn actually, but important to internalize about keeping them off balance by applying the constant pressure. If they're going to trade, don't do it for them, and just make sure the minion, if you are running out of damage and you're trading, stop doing both. Just go face. Just try it out.
Yes. Occasionally you can afford a trade to keep the board in the early game, especially if they're also a board-based deck, but otherwise, go and face. And if
you trade if it lets you go face more, right?
Yeah, trade if it lets you go face more. Exactly. Yeah. This was actually, so my husband had listened to this show enough before he started playing that he didn't trade at all. I had to be no, okay, occasionally you do have to trade. And he was like, this is false advertising. All you say on the show is don't trade. So
give me 3 games with him, and I will fix him on trading. He'll be trading so much. Well, no, because I mean, the trading in the decks that I like to play are trading instead of using a removal spell, right? I mean, you're using the minions as removal rather than using up a spell, so you can get more card advantage out of them. And that's actually the reason. You're not trading just to trade because you're afraid of taking damage. You're trading because it gets you better card advantage in the long run.
I prefer opponent removal.
Face is still the place.
I do too. I just prefer it when they decide to take that into their own hands instead of making me dirty my hands. So, you know.
I will not get into my cat deck rant. Everyone has heard that rant at this point. They are a listener of the show. All right. Art, voice line, and/or flavor.
I don't think that I can beat Undercity Huckster ever. I don't think that I can do it. Hey, you want to buy a funnel cake and then the attack? Buy one! It's just the barely contained slimy rage just gets me every time. But in Battlegrounds, I'm a big fan of Whelp Smuggler. I've got my permits. Like, no, you don't. You do not. I do not trust you. Yeah, I think those are the ones that Undercity Huckster has been my favorite forever, like just forever, and I don't know if anything's ever going to beat it.
Plus it was a riff on another card. It was like I think that was one of the first like internal references to another Hearthstone card.
Yep, it was the 4-mana 3/5 and TGT that healed both players for 4. That yelled
refreshment vendor, I think.
Yeah. They yelled funnel cakes, and then it ended up in a raunchy video, and then Undercity Huckster was like, "Hey, you want to buy a funnel cake?" Yeah.
And they hadn't done the voices and the art at the same time, so it was throwing like a turkey leg instead of a funnel cake to the. Yeah. That was the animation.
Or I think it was a carrot.
One or the other. Yeah. It was something that was not a funnel cake.
It was It was definitely not.
Oh, I feel like art. It's hard to top. Signature Sif.
Oh yeah,
it's hanging behind me on the wall. You can't see it because it's above. But yeah,
the way the signatures look now is just so incredible. But yeah, Sif is really great. Rodden is really great. Just the amount of color and design and artistic expression, all of them is really impressive.
Yeah. Even on the non-legendaries, like I'm so happy with my Lunar Wing. And
it's really so pretty.
It's so pretty with the stained glass. Yeah. It was quite the saga listening to Edelweiss trying to get Signature Sif because you couldn't just buy the one that you wanted in the shop at that point.
For a while.
But
also in my personal opinion of the artwork, the gap in my preference between the standard art for Sif and the signature art is just quite extensive. The regular art was just not for me, and so I really, really, really wanted the signature art very badly, and Wicked just opened it, and I just got the priest one.
Well, I mean that was, and then Hat punished me by just seeding rogue signatures into all of my other pre-orders from that point forward.
You can't prove anything.
Oh, good! I got another signature that I'm never gonna play. Fantastic.
Did you get the Mimeron sig? I think you did, right?
I did. I sure did.
Right, that one's really good, though.
It's a really cool one, though.
It's really good, and I played it maybe 3 times.
You also got Drilly, right?
I did get Drilly, yes.
Because I wanted Drilly real bad.
And I hated Excavate Rogue with a passion. I hated Excavate Rogue.
That deck was just a Generate Priest with a darker border, though.
It was Galakron Rogue with more steps, is what it was. And I hated Galakron Rogue, too. So
I feel like there's some evaluation here to be done about the actual play pattern of Excavate Rogue and making a bunch of crap that annoys your opponent from other classes. Like,
I don't want to generate stuff from other classes. I want to generate things from my class.
How many times did you click Amanthul?
Enough, but I would try to take the priest legendaries when I click.
Didn't it say other class?
No, it said any class. You could
Okay.
get priest legendaries from it too. It was just all class legendaries, so you could get priest ones from it too.
watching you. I don't trust you.
Yes, for those listening, Hat's been squinting very hard in Wicked Goat's general direction here. It's at the camera, but I can still tell which direction it's going.
Oh, you can tell.
Yes. All right, well, we have a very important question that you asked us, and so we must ask you, which is a hot dog a sandwich?
So, what is a sandwich? What is a sandwich is the question that I ask you, right? Because it's if you go to a deli and you ask for a sandwich, you will never get a hot dog. I don't know if I'd ever want that to happen. But also, if you just ask for a sandwich, you don't really ever get just like they'll say what kind, right? They'll say what kind, and you can specify, you can dial it in. There's always going to be a follow-up question. If you ask a hot dog, there isn't really a follow-up question. If you ever go to a taqueria, you're never going to be like, "Give me a taco," and they hand you a hot dog. They probably don't even have hot dogs. Right? Even though I think that the structural configuration of a hot dog is way closer to a taco or a roll of some sort, way closer, you're still never going to get one at a taco place. It's not kind of what they're about. More likely to find a hot dog at a deli, which is more likely to have sandwiches. Just there's a lot of cultural background here that's outside of the scope of this topic. But a hot dog is a hot dog. If you ask for one, you will get one. The only questions will be what you want with your hot dog. It will never be what is a hot dog? What do you mean? What are you actually looking for? Unless maybe you're in Detroit and they say, "Do you want a regular or coney?" And you know what? That's a question that speaks to the culture of the space. That is a city that is steeped in the culture of hot dogs, and I respect it. But if you ask for a hot dog, you will get a hot dog, and if you don't ask for a hot dog, you won't get a hot dog. So a hot dog is a hot dog. I know that's tautological, but it's very important to acknowledge the uniqueness and the specificity of this particular sandwich-adjacent, taco-adjacent construction. It's very clear what it's about. It has a distinct identity. And I think it's actually kind of interesting that it gets lumped in with so many other different groups when the hot dog stands alone. The hot dog is a proud food. Costco doesn't sell sandwiches. They don't sell tacos. But if
They
you
do
ask
sell
someone
sandwiches.
about... Okay, well, I'd never buy them, so they don't. But if you ask someone, if you say, "I'm going to the Costco food court," they ask, "Oh, are you getting a hot dog?"
Yep.
It's culturally specific and relevant and independent. So, is a sandwich a hot dog? That is the question we need to be asking. But we're out of time.
In a different life, you could have been an analytical philosopher.
Some might say that I'm living that life, but in my line of work, we call it marketing. So,
Well, I don't know if we can top that, but is there anything that we forgot to ask?
Maybe if we had some bright onions and mustard and relish. But I don't think that I need to talk more. I feel happy with the amount that I've talked. Thank you all so much for having me. I see that there is a blue note in the show notes that I'm going to let you all explain to me.
Yes. So we did also put out a call to anyone who is interested in doing so because you don't turn 500 every day. I don't know. Are we turning 500? Is that what we're doing? I don't know. But so we did put out a call to whoever wanted to put out a message and get that on the show. And we got a few people. So I have those queued up and we can just kind of play those now.
Congratulations on 500 episodes, Coin Concede. This is Bread and Butter with Tito.
Pilot.
The housewife.
And language hacker.
Congratulations.
We wouldn't be doing this without you guys. Have been doing it for a long time, so we appreciate you and good luck on the next 500.
Congrats.
Hey Coin Concede, it's Deck Tech. Congratulations on 500 episodes. That's a huge accomplishment. You all have had quite the mark on the history of this game and community, and on me personally as a big fan of the show. Thank you for all the fun times, and here's to many more.
I was almost expecting him to do the intro for us, like he's done a few times, but maybe at 1,000 he'll do that for us.
Congratulations, Coin Concede, on reaching 500 episodes. This is Torby Flenderson. Just wanted to say thank you for everything that you've done in helping us achieve greater heights in Hearthstone. Hope you get to keep it up for a few hundred episodes more.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Schwal, former Play for Tempo co-host and Coin Concede listener series admin. I've been listening to Coin Concede through 8 years and 8 co-hosts since episode 96, Icy Butts. What drew me to the show initially was your mission of making the competitive side of the game more accessible to all. Being a great source of knowledge through explanations, meta-analysis, and core concepts helped create many a great Hearthstone player, myself included. But possibly even more than the podcast, what you all created was an amazing community in the Discord, where we explored new deck concepts and sharpened our skills by playing co-op and reviewing replays. This was brought to the fore in the Coin Concede listener series, where about 2 weeks into playing it, Cinder told me, "You keep answering questions in the Discord before I get to them. I'm making you an admin unless you strenuously object." There's also been one other great through line of both the podcast and the community. If you're not enjoying the game, you don't have to play it. The meme factory that was late 2018 Coin Concede happened partially because none of the hosts were playing much ladder, so they used the podcast to goof around and tell fun stories, and it was still amazing. And when hosts felt like they were unlikely to start playing again no matter the next patch, or they got hired by Blizzard, they stepped aside and let someone who did have this passion take the seat. This ethos extends into the Discord, where you're still a member of the community even if you're not playing. I haven't played a game of Standard or Wild in over 3 years, but I still admin CCLS and talk about magic, books, and whatever delightful nerd stuff someone has come across today. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Congratulations on 500 episodes, and here's to 500 more.
And shout out to the Unity Precision Perfection pillow of ours that she has in the background of that shot too. Oh yeah, and the shirt. We couldn't see it because you were cut off below that, but yeah.
My name is World8, and I've been a listener of the Coin Concede podcast for quite some time. I've also been a member of the Coin Concede Discord for a while as well, and the Discord is a place where I can discuss not only Hearthstone strategy, deck building, but other things like just general technology or number theory and general parental guidance. Sometimes both of those things at the same time. I just really appreciate the community for being there, being a positive impact on my life. The community was there when I was going through a pretty tough time. So I just want to say thank you to the incredible host on the podcast, but also to all the community members as well. I feel like I've made quite a few friends along the way, and I cherish you all.
And that's what we had. So thanks to everybody who sent those in. I mean, it's kind of surreal to be stewarding this ship through five that's been in this, around for long enough to have a 500th episode. Like, that's, most podcasts don't even get to 100. And like, it is kind of massive when you think about it. It's hard not to think about it. I mean, I was doing the math. I think I've been on for like a third of these episodes. It looks like I think you've probably been closer to maybe not to half, but certainly more than a third.
No way.
Yeah. Well, because I was started in like 320. I want to say. So you've been on for a while before me. So
yeah, it might be close to that because I'm close to 20%.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel like the new girl still in certain ways. But thank you everyone who is a part of the community or just listens to the show. You really make Coin Concede what it is, and it's amazing to me when I run into someone on ladder and they Coin Concede and or they friend me after. You don't have to Coin Concede if you see me on ladder. I will shout you out if you do, but you don't. You don't have to. You can also see if you can beat Magesa, and with no mercy. But to get someone who says that they listen to the show and to just be a part of all the community conversations, that was really what got me into Coin Concede. And we really appreciate everything from listeners and from the community.
Yeah. And we love this game, but also I think we all love just talking about this, this has always been, no matter how bad of a week I've been having in the game, like, it doesn't matter when we're sitting down talking about it and just like having fun. And it's always fun no matter what. And that's what I love about the show. And what I loved it when I was a listener. I love it, now as a host, and like, I've had to reorganize some things, some of my other extracurriculars, just to make sure that I, don't burn out on doing this, because I love doing this so much. And, I've been known to overcommit to things, in my past days, and like, but that's something that, like, this show is something special, and it's an honor to be part of it.
That's a feeling I always remember having of when I was having Thursdays were always, it was when my compound sleep debt would always pile up every week. And I remember going into the show like, oh, I haven't done the explanations, and I haven't even had time to play that much, and I'm not even sure I want to do it. And then like an hour into the show, not only am I having fun, I'm like, I wish I could queue up right now. Wish I could queue up right at this moment in the middle of the show. And immediately after the show, I would always be late to start editing and posting the raw, because I would immediately go queue up Hearthstone. Because after 2 hours talking about it, I could not resist.
Yeah. That's why the new innovation is not posting the raw until the next morning. That's why they pay me the big bucks, So
I just checked. I think it looks like I joined around 249.
There you go. I told you.
There is a period of like, guesting a lot, so it's a little like hard to say exactly when was the permanent join, but that's at least when they were multiple episode descriptions that had my name. So
you officially have been here for more than half of the show's life.
That is weird.
Because I'm not a mathologist, but you take 500, you cut it in half, it's 250. 249 is before 250.
As a math teacher, that checks out.
Thank you for the validation.
That is similar to the feeling I had turning 31 and realizing I have been with my wife longer than not.
Yes. That's good for you.
Yeah. I mean, imagine being married longer than you've not.
Yeah, that's going to be a weird one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is something where, even when I'm trying to juggle, I was looking at my upcoming summer. They changed the grad school classes around on me. So actually I have to take like 3 at once. I'm like, oh gosh, gonna have to figure out something. Can I cut back on tutoring? I already committed to summer school, but we are not cutting the podcast, except for maybe 1 week when I have like a huge amount of overlap, because it's like
you are allowed to take a break. You are allowed to take a break. It is okay.
But I enjoy the podcast, and it's it's something that's important to me, and it's something that's important to me.
Yeah, you are allowed to take a week off if it means that you're not going to end up like self-destructing in the process. That is a thing that we are all okay with, and is good and healthy.
There will probably be a week in mid-July. Yes.
Well, Hat, do you want to?
Oh, I'm so ready. Well, it's getting to be that time, and we have many folks to like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, coinconcede.com, where you can also find our contact info, show notes, and Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email, coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us in Blue Sky at Coin Concede. And if you'd like some CC swag, heading over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. We've got some Coin Concede, some shout-outs to share. We had some subs during the show: Baldwin, Greg, Alchiris, Mr. Bungalow, Tito Santana, Scoop D. Thank you so much. Who wants to go Coin Concede first?
Well, I think speak for all of us in terms of Coin Concede to everyone who submitted audio. That was very, very moving and lovely to hear. And it occurred to me over the course of this show that we Coin Concede and also VS and Blizzlet, like none of the top shows are really guest shows anymore. Like, just none of us really do a lot of guests. I feel like we don't reach out to ask for devs because and we don't think to in terms of other people except for the world champion when Pocket won. But Tito, who submitted with a number of people in that clip, it is having a bunch of guests. So
that That was actually
Yeah.
one of the reasons we switched to this recording platform, is it would make it easier to get guests on, because we wouldn't have to explain to them what Audacity was.
It's true. That was a whole thing.
Yeah.
It was like, do you have Audacity? No? All right, download Audacity.
Yeah, I don't miss that. I was prepared, but I don't miss that.
Yeah. It is much easier. It is much nicer to say, here's a link. Just make sure your microphone's plugged in.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it'll take care of the rest.
You have lived through the 2020s. You know how Zoom works. It's like that. Well, I think I also speak for everyone when I coin concede to Hat for coming on and for everything that he has done for this show, past and present, and just being Hat. It's really good. I mean, I had never had a chance to actually record with Hat, so I'm thrilled to have had that chance, and it's just really good to have you back even for a short time.
Yep.
I will echo that, because it has been. I miss this. I mean, I know I'm happy that you are where you are, but I miss this.
Yeah.
So
It's been a hot minute.
Yes.
Definitely reactivated some old neurons. First of all, I forgot the most important coin conceit, by the way. My wife heard the intro through the door and had a flashback. And she was like, oh no. And so, honey, I love you. Thank you for letting me guest. She messaged me during the outro because she recognized that the show was almost done. So you know what? Some things never really change. So
that is how trauma works. Yes. So yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. We're gonna hang out on the couch for a little bit and play some Switch 2. It's cool. We need all the time download anyways. Coin Concede to y'all for having me back, and for of course being great shepherds, stewards of the community. Coin Concede to the Coin Concede Discord, because as previously mentioned, y'all are great, special community place that I feel really connected to. The Angry Chicken, Vicious Syndicate, pour one out for the homies. Well, Vicious Syndicate's still here, and we just heard World 8, one of the hosts, along with Echo. But pour one out for the Angry Chicken. The Hearthstone community, big fan of y'all. Thanks for playing Hearthstone. And the inventor of the hot dog. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're the Earl of Frankfurt or something. But thank you for. I know you're.
I thought it was Oscar Mayer.
It you know what? That's plausible. Whoever you are.
I don't know. I'm making that up too. So
from wherever you are looking down on us from heaven, I hope you understand how much podcast content you have created with your culinary invention. You're dead. You might not know what a podcast is, but trust me, people talk about the food that you invented. And I just want to say thank you for that.
So apparently, in 1867, on Coney Island, New York,
of course it's Coney Island.
Charles Feltman, a German immigrant and baker by trade, invented the first hot dog as a convenient way for beachgoers to enjoy Frankfurter sausages on a long sliced bun without the hassle of plates or silverware.
It's Charles, Chuck. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that.
Similar to how they came up with ice cream cones too. They just had waffles and they ran out of plates, so they just put the ice cream in the waffle.
It's you know what? Necessity has led to a lot of really great inventions. The hot dog and the ice cream cone, chief among them.
So is an ice cream cone a sandwich? I guess is the question.
So I think that's all the time that we have for today. So keep calm and see you in 500 more. And if you see us on the ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Da 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 da.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.